All rise for the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome tonight, the work session, March 24th. First of all, I'd like to apologize for the late start of the meeting. We had a meeting with our sewer district consultants that ran over. It was extremely informative, and we've got a lot of work that has to be done associated with that, but I'm very fortunate. The Planning Commission, the work that they've done a great job. Paul Travis has really done a nice job leading us there. So, we have public comment. That no one had signed up. I didn't know if anybody from the public would like to speak. Okay. All right. So we have no board presentations. We have no public hearings at this point in time. We have communications to the board.
We have one from Torsten Henke. We would like to inquire about having the red brick planter in front of our building removed. He's over on 18 Windmill Lane. The planter is cracked, damaged, and dated. The tree and plantings are not very appealing when they are in bloom. It obscures visibility to our buildings and tenants, whether in bloom or not. During the winter, it is just boxes of dirt and completely empty, besides a poor lonely tree with bare branches. We would greatly appreciate to simply remove it, thus creating more open sidewalk space for the general public, better visibility for our tenants' businesses. We believe it will be a great improvement for all and will not require any further budget upkeeping. Perhaps a bench could be placed there. We are happy to and available to meet at any time to discuss any questions or concerns. There's a series of pictures of what he's referring to in the book there.
Well, I think you have to look at Windmill Lane, the entire streetscape. I wouldn't look at just the removal of one planter. And, we'd have to think, well, what are we going to put in its place? And in the summertime, it's planted and
looks nice, actually. I do agree this is in bad shape, though.
Yeah, they are.
This particular one, I haven't examined all the other ones, but this looks like it's in bad shape. But I think there's a history to all of that, and the history to that is that trees could not be planted there because of the pipes that go under the street that go down to the pond.
Right.
And so at one point, I don't know if it was the VIAS or if it was one of the garden clubs, decided to do this so that there would be some foliage on that side of the street. And they came up with this. And it probably does look a little dated at this point, but it's also broken, so we need to fix it. But if you take this out, it almost balances all the way down, because there are several of them on the street.
That's why I said I wouldn't take one out unless we were looking at all of them.
Right.
And then we would need an option
It's like three
as to what we would replace it with.
They get planted every year, and these are crepe myrtle trees that are in there, and they are bare during this winter, but when they bloom, they're beautiful. I mean, those are the trees that we did over by the train station. Those are the trees that we did behind the chamber, when that new sidewalk addition, just to make it look, when you look down there, you have some foliage that, basically blooms during a good part of the summer. So this does look very pretty when it's in bloom, but I will admit that it is broken. You need to somehow fix it. And it kind of reminds me of the planter that was on Job's Lane at the entrance to the O'Connell. That was broken too, and I don't know if it's our men that are hitting this and breaking it, but if
Well, that's probably
probably
a function
Frost.
of
Just frozen.
Frost.
Yeah.
I mean, it's,
The
so,
water gets in there and it's, I think
Yeah.
it's the same, although the one over by O'Connell was a combination of
they hit it.
people going in and out of when it used to be Buckley's
Right.
and a few other things. So,
And missed the driveway.
yeah,
I think I might have hit that one twice already.
that movie driveway. So,
So,
if the
We'll-
you know
we'll-
the
we'll talk to
beautification
them.
committee could look at that.
yeah, that's something.
Yeah.
We'll look at it.
Okay, that'd be great. Okay.
Okay, on to resolutions. Item 1, resolve that the reading of the minutes for the public session of March 12th, 2015 be dispensed with, and those minutes be accepted as filed by the village administrator. That the actions taken at that meeting be and hereby are ratified and approved. Have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
I
Aye.
have to abstain because I wasn't here.
Right. Resolved that the claims for the warrants dated March 24th, 2015 totaling $375,932.99, warrant 12 general fund, $41,849 and $1,331.30, warrants 10 and 19 trust fund, and the village payroll for the period ending March 19th, 2015 be ordered and approved. Have a motion?
Make a motion.
Second?
Second.
Discussion. Item 1, Atlantic Salt, 82 tons of salt, $5,570.30. CSE Employee Benefit Fund, April premium, $24,387.30. Page 2, payment to H2M Architects for the Sewer District Study, $6,125. Page 3, Caracera Document Solutions, a copy for the court, which is paid for by a grant, $3,039. National Grid, building expenses, $4,359.47. New York State Health Insurance Premium for April, $254,205.74. Office of State Controller, fines for January, $8,578. Pitney Bowes for the court, $1,005. Pitney Bowes for the fire department, $1,520.99. PSE&G for the police department, $6,291.66. And PSE&G for traffic control on page 5, $1,264.19. Page 6, break operating, 3,037 gallons of gas, $5,206.94. Suffolk County National Bank first responder bond, $31,914.50. Testing Unlimited, ladder testing for the fire department, $1,630. Vince Toomey, legal fees for February, $5,244.87. First trust warrant, Atlantic Coast Dock Constructions for the Agawam Boardwalk, $41,849. And the last trust warrant is $1,331.30 for tax sale redemption to Gregory Mensch. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the attached schedule of budget transfers to eliminate overages for the period March 13th through March 24th, 2015. Have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Discussion. Item 1, $3,000 into police miscellaneous, $10,000 to radio operators overtime, with $10,000 coming from police vacation and travel, $10,000, and police supplies, $3,000. Item 2, $4,000 to highway supplies from highway seasonal. And item 3, $2,000 into parks miscellaneous, $2,000 into parks clothing, with $4,000 out of parks supplies. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the Southampton Village Volunteer Ambulance 2014 Lengths of Service Award Program list, which has been reviewed and certified by Rick Fowler, Chief, and Dan Berry, Assistant Chief. Have a motion?
Make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the hiring of Mauricio Espinoza as a custodial worker 1 for the Building Maintenance Department at an annual salary of $44,718.66. Have a motion?
Make the motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And resolved that the Board of Trustees approve the appointment of Kevin Croak as a probationary member of the Southampton Village Volunteer Ambulance. Have a motion?
Make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, discussion items. Board compensation, we had this on the last 2 agendas. There was a question as far as the activity on the ZBA. It was down by 2, so it's actually 49. ARB is correct at 176, and Planning Board was 31. As a comparison, we're looking at East Hampton Village, where the chairs is $6,250 compared to our $2,000, and members are $4,750 compared to our payments of $1,000 per year.
Okay. Well, I think that we need to do something from a compensation. I know we have it in the budget this year, we've
I
put
put in
numbers.
6 and 4, just
6 and
as
4.
as an
I mean,
argument.
what are your guys' thoughts, Michael? I mean, you served on these boards. Do you think that's a fair number? I mean, it's, should it be a higher number? I mean, it's, what they're seeing as compared to East Hampton Village is
Well, I think
substantially
it is
more.
another village, we should be comparable to them at least,
Yeah,
because they are putting in a tremendous amount of time.
yeah. Well, East Hampton are what, 60, 62?
They're $62.50 for the chair and $47.50 for each member.
And we put in the budgets,
4,750?
Mhm.
yeah, and we put in the budget 6,000 and 4,000.
Right.
You guys have any
Well-
comments on that?
And what is East Hampton?
6250 and 4750,
Oh, they are.
yeah. And
And what were we putting in?
6,000 and 4,000. I didn't know if we wanted to go higher than.
We
East
also have
Hampton.
the medical stipend that they get.
Right,
Yeah.
that's
So
true.
that's, to be
Yeah.
And do
considered
they
too.
get that in East Hampton?
I don't believe so, no.
No,
And that's 1,000, correct?
Right.
right.
Not everybody takes advantage of it, but it is available.
It's available for people. And then they have the ability to buy into the benefits too,
Mhm.
if somebody chooses to do that.
Right, at their
so,
cost.
At their cost. So,
Well, then I think that the 6 and the 4s are probably a good,
Well, that's what we budgeted, yeah.
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 So, I
it's
think
changed from the old days. I remember, I think somewhere in downstairs, they have the book of the first meeting that was ever held here. And the discussion was about, the meeting was opened, the discussion was riding bicycles on Main Street. This is back in the whatever year, 18, whatever it was. And the meeting was closed 5 minutes later. So it's changed a lot. Now it's hours and hours and hours and hours, so, anyway.
All right, so those are good numbers. We'll have, we have them in the budget, so.
Nice round
6
numbers.
and 4?
Yeah, 6 and 4, you guys are
6 and
okay with
4,
that?
yeah.
Okay, all right, good. Okay.
You want to do a resolution on that, or you want to go
Well,
with
I
that?
think it's, well, I mean, do we want to, do we want to start it effective immediately, or we want to start it effective the beginning of the new budget year?
I'd start at the beginning of the new budget year,
Me too.
because that's
Okay.
what you budgeted.
Yep.
So we'll be voting on the budget, which would include it, so I don't think we need to do a,
Fine. Okay.
we don't need to do a resolution.
I think you have.
Yeah.
If someone doesn't come for a number of times, then can.
So can you please come up? Sorry.
Sorry, I
Yeah.
can't even get out of here.
It's okay.
Susan Stevenson, I live in the village. Let's say someone doesn't show up
Mhm.
8 times,
Right.
then what? You still paying them?
Well, the,
Just a question.
well, I
No,
mean,
that's
that's.
a good question.
It's a good question. I don't have an answer to you right
Okay,
now.
I just think it's a consideration,
oh.
because that could
And it
happen.
might
Well,
be
I think
something,
that, I think it has to be a consideration for continued,
I agree, but I didn't want to go there, but you
Well,
did.
well,
So fantastic.
sure. No, it's an issue that's being discussed right now. Attendance at the boards with some of the boards and some of the members there. And it's an issue as to continued service on the board.
Okay, thanks.
And hopefully, the additional funding for maybe a bigger incentive
Uh-huh,
to be there and to
hopefully.
be present.
So,
Thank you.
okay, thanks.
Okay, and the last one is the bike MS, which we discussed at the last meeting. They have a revised route here eliminating, because this is on a Saturday, the muster is occurring. They eliminated the Meadow Lane portion of their route.
Okay. So.
Right. Wolsey Neck, Meadow Engine. Powder Hill.
Right. Okay. Oh, so it's bypassing the area, Hill Street and all the
basically.
areas where the muster's going on and stuff, so they're keeping it more on the northern side of the village instead of, and most of it's in town anyway, so, okay. All right. You guys have a problem with,
Yeah, that should
with
work.
those routes there? So,
No conflict, it's good.
yeah, I think we'll all be able to go out and wave at them and say, go buy our houses. So. Okay,
Street
so
covered.
I'll make a motion to authorize the MS East End ride and their revised route as per their email dated March 20th, 2015.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
I'm looking, right, it's like every,
Because
Yeah.
Powell, North Main.
Yeah,
Brown-
exactly.
So is this week? Yeah, so we will, I guess we all be able to waive it, right?
So, I know there's, we didn't have these discussion items on here, but one of the things I wanted, that I got an email that came in from James Burnett, and he actually was the one who was representing the artist at Tanster, and they were looking for, she submitted a proposal about doing different works of art throughout the village, and again, I don't know what your thoughts, what your guys' thoughts are. My thoughts are that I think it opens up a Pandora's box when it comes to,
We've had this
Work
request
zones,
before and we
yeah.
denied it, not from that person, but from someone
Right.
else.
Yeah,
For
we
that
had-
very same reason.
yeah,
The trouble is, who are you gonna
yeah,
allow in, and
Right.
what is art?
right,
Yeah, right.
I mean, yeah, I mean, for the sake of consistency, we've already denied for the same reasons, you know, because then it's up for us to judge, again, what is and isn't,
yeah.
and we don't need to be in that position.
Right. Well, I would encourage her to participate if, you know, if the Southampton Arts Center or the Cultural Center,
Absolutely.
or put together some opportunity where you're able to do some stuff, so, like she participated in Riverhead, they did an All Fired Up on Main, a project, and they, commissioned different artists to do fire hydrants. And, so if one of our organizations did something like that, she
Yeah,
would be
sure.
a
Something more
ideal
organized,
candidate
yeah.
for participation in that, but, it's, for us to,
Just give a blank check to go wherever you want. in
yeah,
the vil- you know,
it's
it's a little-
probably,
Right.
it's
Little
not
free,
a,
leaf.
yeah, so,
Mm-hmm.
but, okay, so we're on the same page with that,
There's
so.
a fair amount of that artwork showing up on the telephone poles on
You're right.
County Road 39.
Yeah, yeah, so,
Oh, you know, while we're talking about that, you know, we have the this is 2015, the 375th.
yep,
And, you know, I think I mean, there is a letter going out from you. And the Southampton Historical Museum, for any donation, is going to have some sort of a little cocktail benefit for those who donate. And part of that money, and I know you didn't like the idea, but I like the idea, so we're gonna have to talk about this. But, you know, we wanted to make it festive, we wanted to have some banners, you know, saying that this is our 375th. Not a lot, but, you know, somewhere maybe showing Southampton 1640, 375th. Also, and I'm bringing this up to the board, and I mentioned it to you as well, the Halsey House, which is probably one of the oldest houses in the village, they every year have an event that takes place around the 4th of July. This year, they're not having it right around the 4th. I think it's on the 11th, if I'm correct, but I have to look that up. And this is going to be a really big one for them because of the 375th. So I got a phone call from a member over there who asked me if they could put a banner up on Main Street talking about the 375th and the Halsey. I haven't seen the banner yet. And I mentioned it to you because we always put a banner up for the 4th of July parade.
right,
But we have two spots on Main Street. We have the spot that's closest to Village Hall out here, and then we have the spot over by 75 Main where we hang the Santa. And I mentioned it to you, and I'd really like to be able to do that for them because I feel, this is all part of our celebration, and it's important for this year that, we only celebrate that in the village every 25 years. So this is the year that it will be celebrated. And there's a lot of really good events that will be taking place throughout the year. I think I think it's June, Calling All Halseys there'll be an event for a lot of the Halsey families that are here. And then in October, there's another one called Calling All Howells. And there are people who are members of the Howell family that don't really live here anymore, but they're coming from all over the country to come back to celebrate that here, which I think is terrific.
What about,
So-
Nancy, if you put the banner on the railroad bridge?
You know what? I don't like it over there. Hate to
No?
tell you. I mean, I think that's good
Sort
for
of the
spaghetti
entrance.
dinners, but
You know,
I don't know. I think they were sort of hoping it could be on Main Street. We can talk about it. Yeah. So, anyway, I just want to bring
Okay.
that up. And stay tuned. There'll be more information on
I'm
it.
sure there will.
Yeah.
All right, great. Those are the discussion items that we had on here. Rich, did you want to add anything here?
No, I'm good.
Mike?
just that the reason we were late is we were having a discussion in regards to the septic system in the village of Southampton, drawing a district which mostly will involve the business district. It's a very, very positive thing. There's a long ways to go on it, but it was good to see a beginning, and it will be an incredible benefit for the village. I know there's a lot of controversy on the development of it, but we have Windmill Lane and so many areas that are really almost blighted looking. If we can do it correctly, we can have a really vibrant downtown area that I think will be a big, big benefit to the entire community, not just the business district.
So I have a question on it, because I know you've been involved, the two of you have been involved. I was a little involved in the beginning, but I didn't know about this meeting. But in any event, what I want to ask you is, by doing this sewage treatment, does that mean that there could be more restaurants?
There's the potential of taking dry space and turning it into wet space.
Well, that's
Yeah.
that's a good thing.
And,
Yeah.
and there's potential for, a couple of things. One is one of the big focuses has been about water quality in Lake Agawam.
Right.
And the nitrogen loading and what comes from the village business district and actually ends up in our underwater aquifers and ends up in Lake Agawam. That's one of the components to that. The other piece, when we did our village business district master plan, we talked about, housing opportunities above the stores.
Right.
And, 30 years ago, there was 120 something apartments above stores in the village business district, and now there's 20. And it's about 20 or so. And so those are affordable housing opportunities for people, young people, to come back here to work in our offices and as professionals and be able to do different things. And it affords opportunities for the property owners to have multi-tenants in a building, and which I think is a good thing. So, but the plan is it's a long-term plan. It's probably a 5-year process to get from where we are to today to be fully operational. The cost, we're still working on the cost. A lot of it depends on the design. They've come up with some pretty good ideas that actually, I think are very logical. Reduces the volume, the amount of infrastructure damage, because you can get into tearing streets up and sidewalks, and they've looked at a lot of that stuff already. There's a lot of grant money that's available for capital cost, which you know, the town of Riverhead, and their sewers got $18 million. And Patchogue got a lot of their, the village of Patchogue most of their stuff was grant funded. So these are the same engineering firms that have worked on both those projects, and they're familiar with the grant opportunity in the Farrell Fritz, which is the legal team, is Chris Kent is very familiar with all of that. So he's been involved with the Department of Health in Suffolk County, and so he's done a good job. So, but I think it was a very informative meeting. We always have to be cautious, because the reason why it's Michael and myself, because if we have 3 people there, it becomes a quorum at a public meeting, and so there was a lot of questions they had. They'd asked us, and you know, conceptual stuff that they were talking about that they didn't want to do in a public format. But it was good. It was good.
It was good. Well, I mean, one of the downstrokes of it is the possibility of increased density, whether or not it's commercial or restaurant development. But we sort of discussed that because initially the master plan that we formulated while it didn't take into account the sewer district itself, it did take into account some commercial development. I think what we need to do now is go back, assuming that the district goes forward, take a look at the possibilities of commercial development in that district, and then redo some of the codes accordingly, so we don't get a rampant development, because that's always the fear, that you no longer have the restriction of the Department of Health on
Right,
density.
right.
But, if we can accomplish that, the fact that we've reduced some of our nitrogen loading into the Lake Agawam, and it's certainly by no means can you say that putting a system in the business district is going to stop or end the problems in Lake Agawam, but it's a step forward, and it's a pretty important step.
Thanks, Mike. Nancy?
I just want to say a couple of things. There is a meeting over at Town Hall tonight, and they will be discussing the Tuckahoe Center. So I'm sort of hoping that several board members can go over there. I'm going to go over, and anybody else who might be here will go over. Also, there is a meeting of the Suffolk County Planning Commission, and that is that is Wednesday, April 1st in East Hampton at 2 o'clock, in East Hampton this time, not Riverhead. So, and that is to discuss the King Cullen and the bank and restaurant and retail buildings over in the Tuckahoe Center. And I'm really happy to see that the Suffolk County Planning Commission is discussing this. It was touched upon lightly when they were talking about the County Road 39 study that the town had done. And I think when we were there, one of the members of the Suffolk County Planning Commission was completely taken back that they actually were thinking about doing that there, because she lives in North Haven, another member lived in East Hampton, and that is the only road that they can use to get to where they need to go. And I think her thought process was, you're putting what, where? And so I'm anxious to go to that and see what the response is while they're out there. And like, when you think about it, it is the most tangled and most congested part of that highway there. You know, you go down County Road 30 and you have some car dealerships before you turn onto Montauk Highway. But there you have Sandy Hollow, you have all these other roads that are feeding into it, and now more. It's just not a good location for it, and quite honestly, I don't want to see a change of zone there. I don't want to see a change of zone on County Road 39 anywhere. It's just opening, it's just, You know, when they put the highway business zone, it was put in place so that this would never happen. And that was back when there was not a lot of traffic, not the amount of traffic that we have now. So what justifies this? There can't be any justification for changing this zone. So anyway, I'm going to go over there and voice my opinion again, and I hope that other people will go.
Actually, since the chief's here, I'd like to call, Chief, would you come up and talk about Airbnb? It's something we touched base with. I just wanted to bring people up to date, and I want the chief bring people up to date on the actions that the police department's taken in reference to Airbnb.
Well, we started looking at it already because we've had complaints to the village. I wrote a letter to the Attorney General's office, and hopefully they'll help us.
Yeah.
They did a good job in New York City, and from what we can tell already, there's at least 12 places in the village that are doing this, and even if the building department takes action under the village code, it's, I don't think it's a very big disincentive, and when we do police action, we're really doing it to the end user rather than the person who's making the money.
Right.
So if the Attorney General can do this as a whole East End type of situation, I think it will be helpful. You know, just even from my perspective as a police officer, you know, like one of the listings is that, you know, have a bed in a cozy attic. Well, that house catches on fire, how are you going to get out of that cozy attic? You know, and I just think that, you know, you can argue whether there needs to be more lodging situations out east, but this isn't the answer to that.
Right.
So we're going to do whatever we can to at least enforce the law when it comes to this.
Well, it's not fair to the proprietors who actually own bed and breakfasts that are following the law, getting license, that are meeting the fire code, that are paying the sales tax, and now an individual's going to take us home and sublet rooms and do it through Airbnb, and I know it's an issue across all of the East End.
And we even had a situation last summer where the homeowner just rented their house for the summer to a tenant, and then the tenant was doing Airbnb without even the homeowner knowing about it. So, you know, and plus, you know, we, of course, I don't think this is going to be widespread, but there's certainly opportunity for an astute criminal to be able to go places and be hard to track
Yeah.
by using Airbnb.
Right.
But it's also not fair to the neighbors.
Oh, right. Well, exactly,
In the
because,
community, because, you know, you get more cars on the street, you get more people wandering around.
I mean, there's one particular house that's kind of like a prom party house, and even if we go there and do a bunch of enforcement, it's just a whole nother group the next weekend. So that doesn't, you know, the group that we enforce parking on or noise codes on or whatever, they're all leaving, you know. It's the homeowner, the guy who's facilitating this isn't really going to get, I mean, even if we take action, it's not necessarily based on how much money they're charging, you know, dissuading them from continuing to do it.
Well, most of those also that I've seen advertised online are in the tighter quarters to begin with.
Right.
You
True.
know, so it becomes.
No parking.
It's tough enough to listen to all the blowers going in the middle of the summer, let alone the party animals.
Right.
The Attorney General's really attacking, going after like the proprietor as tax evasion type of thing, right?
Right. And plus, you know, I just think that they have investigative tools that we in the police department, they have subpoena power and can get business records a lot easier than we can. So I think it's just a much more efficient investigation if they do it.
So you don't actually have any recourse to the property owner?
Well, the village building department can cite them for not using, it's a improper use of their certificate of occupancy. But that still has to go to the village justice court and actually be proven. And even in the most efficient way, that may take most of the summer if we get them in June. And what's to stop them from spending the rest of the summer doing the same thing?
Uh-huh.
Even if they ultimately get convicted of it, I'm not sure what the,
Fine,
I'm not sure what the judge would set as a
It's just-
penalty.
It's a fine.
but
That's
for
all it
those
is.
$100.
Well, the village code says, well, it depends on how many times they get, how many citations, what gets thrown out, and,
But the citations are based on the police going for noise and parking? Is that how you prove it, or
No, it's different.
I think it's a cumulative set of circumstances that would use to be proved, to
Well,
prove the situation.
let's use, we had a West Prospect Street house, okay? and It wasn't part of the Airbnb. But there was an individual who, well, individuals who own the house actually live in Florida, and they leased it to another individual, who then actually used it as a boarding house, who then had people sleeping on mattresses, and it.
In the basement.
In the basement, and it was an overcrowded situation, they were taking advantage of people. And to get to the point where we actually were able to shut that house down was a couple of years, I think. It's,
And we needed to, I mean, it was a major undertaking.
Right, I actually know about this.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
husband lives next door.
Yeah.
And they were like stealing gas, doing all kinds of crazy
Well,
stuff.
I mean, one of the things they were taking advantage of, they had the guy was, you'd sign up as a student in another country to come work here for the
That's
summer,
right.
and he's taking your money and you're getting put on a mattress on the floor in the basement. And you barely, I mean, they spoke, the kids spoke English, but barely, and I mean, the girl that actually brought it to our attention was from China, and she worked at McDonald's, and myself and the lieutenant were going through the drive-through to get a cup of coffee, and she kind of grabbed the lieutenant by the shirt, and we're like, I gotta tell you about this, because I don't know what else to do.
Right.
Well, I'm glad you did.
So, but what we're saying is that the enforcement power and the process itself are very, and so by engaging the Attorney General, and who's already has a history with Airbnb and success there, actually, I think will have a greater impact, and hopefully the other municipalities and the other departments around would get on board to get, and have strength through numbers.
Yeah, I think the Attorney General, because of the scope of the whole East End, it would be worth
Right.
them putting the resources into it. I think they probably wouldn't do it just for us, but I don't think it's not limited to the village of Southampton.
It's a significant problem elsewhere across the East End. Good. All right, Chief, thanks.
Thanks, Chief.
A couple of other things. One is the helicopters. The,
What's happening with that?
East Hampton Town had public hearings around restricting helicopter activity in the summertime at the East Hampton Airport. He spoke with the town supervisors, Supervisor Cantwell. We're trying to get together the different airports in Grabowski, Montauk, East Hampton, and in the village here. And we'll get on a unified basis as to how we restrict. Currently they don't have any restriction times or anything. There's one of the things that they're looking at. They're looking at limiting aircraft size. They're limiting days of the week, and what else? There's something else that.
I think the amount of times they can.
Yeah, the amount of time, you're right, the number of times that they can actually do landings. So, which I thought actually of all of them was a pretty neat idea, I think, for
Yeah.
maybe us to explore. Because one of the problems, really, most of the issues associated with the helipad are related to two groups. One is a group called Hellflight, which is a private group that charters, people buy a seat on that plane, or they charter the helicopter back and forth. For the most part, I've had a pretty good working relationship with those guys, and they've improved over the years. But there's another group called Blade, and Blade runs very much in the same category as Airbnb, and it's basically if you sign up for a seat, you can get there, and they're a problem. And they're a problem in East Hampton, they're a problem in Montauk, and they're a problem in West Hampton. And I thought that was a pretty ingenious idea of restricting in a calendar week, the number of landings an aircraft can have on that pad. Now, and they have it as part of their code that they're looking at. And so I said to the supervisor, I'm sure your legal department has vetted that out. And he said that they had. So in our discussions, I'll be grabbing as much information as possible to bring it back to our legal department, and to see if it's something that we could actually explore. And
So let me ask you this,
Sure.
if they do this, what were they having? How many landings were they having in a week there? I thought it was a lot.
well, what they're having is because they talk in terms of operations. So a landing is one operation, a takeoff is another. So in this time frame, they have about, according to supervisor, is they have about 8,400 operations from Memorial Day to Labor Day. Okay, which means it's 4,200 aircraft are there. So
Just helicopters or?
just
or-
helicopters.
Okay.
And over that 12, 15-week period or so. And for us, we have 1,000
For the entire year.
for the entire year. So, and most of those are in, June, July. Most of them are really July, August, but June does have some, and then September does too. But so it's, and my fear has always been about, we're really maxed out on operations of that pad, and especially because everybody comes in on Friday nights, and they're all leaving Sunday nights or Monday mornings, and you'll see the helicopters up there, and it's just one right after the other, at an unmanned place with no emergency services, and in an area that is Sunday afternoon, everybody's leaving the county park, they're all coming off the beach, they're jogging and running and doing all sorts of stuff in that same area. So really, we are just not in a position to handle anymore.
Right.
And so, numbers are, if they were to restrict these landings to a couple of times per calendar week, that they would actually reduce their activities by almost 60%, just by that one law right there. And then if they restricted the times, because they don't have a time restrict, it would actually increase that number, which I found to be pretty intriguing. So if we were to do the same, we could see a restriction on potentially reducing the number of landings. I mean, the great thing about the helipad is there are many people that live in the village or right adjacent to it that utilize that. It was one of the drawing points for them to buy in the village of Southampton, and so, but
Also, I think, those helicopters can hover over Shinnecock Bay.
Yeah.
Where the airport is located, the problem is that when they're flying in, they're flying over these houses.
Right.
And I have a friend who, owns a house. She's been spearheading a lot of this. And she bought in a community or in a neighborhood that had a lot of preserved land.
right.
And so when they changed the flight plan, they thought it was a great idea to fly over the preserved land because there was nobody there.
Yeah.
And she gets buzzed. She said, it's just unbelievable. The whole house shakes. And she said, you can't even have a conversation out at the pool because they're so loud and they're so low. And, they have to fly over homes there.
Right.
You can't let them hover over Shinnecock either. Let me
Well,
tell
they
you.
do.
I know they do, but when they do, every bird in the neighborhood goes, all the
Right.
fish go down.
Right,
I mean, they really,
right.
their
Well, aren't they
impact
supposed to
is
be fairly
huge.
Yeah.
high? They're supposed to be fairly high up when they're.
They're supposed to be at 2,500 feet.
no, they come in over
they're
Shinnecock
not.
very low.
Went over my house.
Yeah, I've gone too.
Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
Toss in the conversation. Have you ever thought of something like the HOV
Bruce,
lane?
can you please come up?
It's a dollar fish. Yeah, Bruce Buck, when I'm a resident of the village. I was just thinking, part of the problem is we've got helicopters with 8 people in them, with some we got people with 1.
Right.
Do you think you could take during the high usage time and basically have something like an HOV lane restriction? So unless you've got 4 passengers, you can't land between 5 and 7 on a Friday? Does that
Well, I
make
think
any
that's what
sense,
they
or
were
is
trying
that
to
just going to
accomplish
get a lot
with
of people
limiting the
upset?
landings in East
What's that?
Hampton. I think by limiting the landings in East Hampton, that's kind of what it would do, because they would say, okay,
Yeah.
you're an operator. If we're only giving you 2 this week, you better fill that helicopter up. And so I think that's kind of what they were.
Yeah, maybe, but I think there's also a lot of people that have their own.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, they were.
You know, and basically, if you said to them, well, we're very happy to have you land, but you can't do it during the high occupancy period, maybe that's a way of doing it and permitting everybody to land.
Yeah. Well, it's,
Just toss it in the hat.
but that's, you know, but the, you know, the individual operators really, they'll land on a Friday and then they take off on a Sunday, you know, and it's just and they live in the village, and it's the Blade group, and it is Heliflight. And for the most part, Heliflight's done a pretty good job about following flight path but the Blade has been a problem for everybody.
Is there enforcement? Because they fly over my house. I can tell you when Friday afternoon is, and I don't need to look at a calendar. They come in on Sunday and Monday morning.
Yeah.
And they fly over, they don't fly over the ocean, they fly over.
Well, it's the FAA. There's suggested routes. There's a southern route and a northern route, and they make the suggestions. But the moment they're off the ground,
They're free.
that we have no jurisdiction on it. It becomes an FAA issue. See, if the helicopters flew at that 2,500 foot where they're supposed to fly, you wouldn't have a problem. I mean, I have the problem in my house. Everybody around here has, and it wouldn't be a problem out in East Hampton. And those are so. Part of the debate is, you know, we're having is because of the operators of the. So and the FAA has been.
Call in. I used to call a number.
Yeah.
A lot of good it did probably.
Well,
but
actually, it did a lot. It did a lot of good, because the reality is that we are having the discussion now because of the volume of complaints that go into the hotline, and and so and the volume of complaints that go into the hotline have driven to the attention of Senator Schumer and Representative Zeldin now was and so. You know, we really are getting our.
So shouldn't someone publicize if, I mean, we should be part of that, no?
There's a whole 800 number that's being publicized. It's out.
Can't we get a little publicity?
I think we probably are right now having the whole discussion, and there's a. Yeah.
It's not gonna be, I mean, people, as far as I can tell, the worry is that the people who won't be allowed to land in East Hampton.
is the worry.
Are heading our way.
Well,
Montauk
that's
Highway
that,
or no Montauk Highway.
and therefore that's
We have a
why.
problem.
And that's why I'm actively involved with the supervisor
Great.
there. And that Brenda's been coordinating a meeting for all of us to get together.
So
because-
everyone is on the
Yeah.
page.
And the last meeting that they had was at LTV. We had a village board meeting that night. It asked Councilwoman Scalera, who was going to represent the town of Southampton. I asked her to represent the village of Southampton. I also submitted a letter that's on record now with the town of East Hampton as a public comment, and it's all about, you know, our concerns of if it's 4,200 landings and we get 10% of that, you know,
Yeah.
that's 420, and that's basically, you know, 50-60% of what we receive in the summertime, and it's just not. It doesn't work for us, and so that's why I have to be very proactive and try to make sure that and also if they restricted operations, I'm sure they would end up in there would be some significant legal battles. They have a couple of people who have a little bit of money out there, and you know, we're trying to protect our residents is what we're trying to do. So.
Well, often it's the same helicopter, I've noticed.
Yeah.
In 2 hours' time, the same one comes back.
Right. And that's Blade,
How you make money.
and that's,
Yeah.
that Heliflight, you know? And it's one, and they're coming just constantly back and forth, and so that's where the intriguing component was, the restricting, the number of landings at we're not FAA funded, so we have, some flexibility associated with our helipad.
You're not
And-
FAA funded?
No, we're not.
Oh, I remember a long time ago there was all this discussion. When you
No,
first put the thing where you charge people.
We're not FAA funded.
Okay, good.
So that's why
You
we
know a
can,
lot of
that's
people.
why we can restrict times, that's why we
Yeah.
could restrict days of the week, that's why we could, there's a lot of things that we can do. We can't discriminate,
Right.
we can't say, look, Michael, I don't want your
Right, you can't go.
helicopter landing, but Nancy's can. So we can't do that, but there are things that we could do that if it's across the board with everybody, everybody has the same landing times, everybody has the same landing dates, everybody has the same fees that they're paying based on aircraft size.
And if they don't, see, I don't understand why you can't, let's say they fly, they fly over the land. If they do that 3 times, then what happens? Nothing. You can't enforce your landing thing, saying you've misbehaved kind of thing? 3 strikes, you're out?
It's a very difficult,
Okay.
You
I'm so
try to-
subjective, I know, but to me, I know, it just seems to me that would solve the problem pretty quickly, but I guess if you can't do it, you can't do it.
you have to get the FAA. The FAA has to publish routes, and they have to mandate that helicopters fly those routes. And they've discussed all of this stuff.
Right.
And they've
I've seen the routes, they don't bear any relationship to how the
and they
helicopters fly,
because
that I
because
know.
they're recommended routes.
Oh, they're not prescribed routes?
They can't. They're not telling helicopters that they have to fly
So
these
it's not
routes.
enforceable.
It's not enforceable. So until the FAA is willing to do that, at this
Okay.
point in time, they're not willing to do that. But until they're willing to do that, we have to think in terms of
How to-
operations of our pads and our heliports and airports and stuff. So, and we try to get everybody on board. So, but it's been a good discussion. So, the other pieces at the last meeting also, Lisa LaQuarrie came in and presented to us, and I had said that I was going to send an email to Paul Travis and the Planning Commission after that, and I did, and I think I CC'd everybody here on this, but I asked him to look at the bedroom requirements, to build that into the code and make a recommendation to say that, whatever the Department of Health recommendations over bedrooms and definition of a bedroom was there, and then parking. And I found in the American Planners, it's their book of a definition of a residential parking spot, and it defined it. So I sent that to Paul Travis also. So I know those are 2 things that they're looking at. They're going to address at their next meeting, and I think they're important. But I just wanted to state it here, and I knew you guys all knew that. So, and then, as Nancy talked about the
Can give everybody a
Planning Commission meeting, so, and finally, I just wanted to give some, sad news, actually. So, Lowell Harwood, longtime resident in Village of Southampton and on Meadow Lane, was a great guy, good friend. Passed away, and at 85 years old, and he actually, so he's, he did a lot of good things for the village, and
It's interesting.
he was always very interested. He put together a whole Meadow Lane association of people that were,
Summer resident.
talked about. He was here. He represented a lot of people. He kept people informed with his newsletter, and he was a great man, and very interesting person to spend time with, and we'd always have our debates over who could drive on the beach. He never wanted anybody driving on the beach, and that was okay. We had good debates on that, so. But, yeah, he's gonna be sorely missed, and, you know, he had, yeah, he had you know, not a long illness, but he got progressively worse over the last 3 or 4 years. And his grandson is actually a volunteer in the ambulance department, and when he's out here, and they've always supported a lot of the different charitable organizations out here, and he and his whole family. So he's definitely gonna be missed, and you know, thanks for everything he did for the village of Southampton there, Lowell. So, good man, good man. Anything else we need to bring up here before we had a second public comment section. You guys have anything else you want to talk about? Okay.
Oh, my God.
So, with that being said, since nobody from the public wanted, so I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn the public session here. We have no executive session.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
That means we can all go over to the town.